there, and welcome to my channel. I am nakiuyomushi, and this is the second video in my series using Wearingeul inks to make an illustration with said ink while reading and discussing the classic literature piece on which it's based. Last month was Wuthering Heights, the best book I have ever read, and it is on my channel if you'd like to watch it after this video. This month is Romeo and Juliet, arguably William Shakespeare's most famous piece. I am in love with these ink shades. Juliet is a light red with gold sparkles, and Romeo is what seems to be black until you paint or write with it to find it's gray with purple sparkles. These are two of my most used inks, followed closely by Dracula from Wearingeul. I love the attention to detail with these shades. I think Juliet being a soft red is very appropriate because she blushes a lot. Romeo seeming darker than it is only fits the character all too well. Romeo is young and talks big. He is serious in his conviction, but his conviction is not something terribly serious. He's simply and entirely in love. So a light gray with purple sparkles only seems most appropriate. For this illustration, I used Annie Leibovitz photo series she did about Romeo and Juliet with Coco Roca and Roberto Boyle as an inspiration for the placement and setting. That collection of photos can be found in her book Wonderland. I found inspiration for the character clothing designs from The Costume History by Auguste Racinet. I did not say that correctly, sorry guys. And What People Wore When, a complete illustrated history of costume from ancient times to the 19th century for every level of society, featuring the classic artworks of Friedrich Hottenroth and Auguste Racinet, consultant editor Meilissa Leventon. Romeo and Juliet is set in late medieval Italy, so the 14th to 15th century. I used both books to find costumes I found beautiful and appropriate. I also used Shakespeare's words for inspiration. For example, Romeo has a medieval rose design on his clothing and Juliet a medieval style sun. As for the actual pose of the characters, I used myself as a model to get the placement of how I wanted them to stand, as well as looking through some photos from various different stage productions. I am sure you are more than familiar with Romeo and Juliet. It is perhaps the most famous love story of all time. It teaches us that hate only leads to hurt, and love teaches in its tragic triumph. There are many stage versions as well as film adaptations of Romeo and Juliet. Some are better than others, but they all have one thing in common. The text is never performed in its entirety. There are a lot of reasons for this, the main one being a concern about time and audience retention. This especially has become more prominent in the current day because we are being trained to only want to watch 1-minute videos. I wonder if anyone has made it past the first minute of this one. There is more background I would like to give on the theater end of things, however. I earned my master's degree in German with a focus on theater from California State University, Long Beach. The main person I studied was Bertolt Brecht. If you are a native English speaker like I am, you've probably heard Bertolt Brecht. Brecht's theater theories are the basis of modern theater today. His idea of Verfremdungseffekt is a common approach to directing. This term means distancing effect or alienation effect. This is used in what is called epic theater rather than dramatic theater. Dramatic theater is how stage productions are classically directed. Dramatic theater entails audience immersion in a story and an emotional connection to a linear narrative being presented on stage, while epic theater focuses on intellectual and critical engagement by the audience by using episodic scenes and social commentary. The idea behind epic theater and Verfremdungseffekt is to do something on stage during the production that bothers the audience so much they go home and continue to think about it, ultimately changing their behavior and then consequently society as a whole. As an example to help illustrate, let's take Cinderella. In dramatic theater style, every character is cast beautifully, the set is perfect, the actors are amazing, and you are totally satisfied by the end of the production. You even talk to your friends about how much you loved X, Y, and Z. But it's just that, a theater production for entertainment purposes. Epic theater style. Cinderella is cast as a fat, angry old man who lives in his mother's basement. The prince is rude and the set is dilapidated. This would bother anyone, no? You go home, complain, and talk about what should have been different. In other words, you critically think rather than just experience. That's a simple example, but for epic theater, it doesn't necessarily have to be something done on stage. Brecht himself would sit in the audience of his own productions and laugh at inappropriate times during the show, pissing off the entire audience. Things like that ensure people think about that production with a critical eye. Brecht wrote his pieces to be taken apart as the director saw fit. The point was to use his work to help make a point and a change. Now, directors have been cutting up theater pieces to make them shorter for a while. I've done it myself when I have a strict time limit. Yes, I have cut a 3-hour piece down to approximately an hour. It's not an easy task, but it is a good exercise in editing to figure out what the essence of what you want to say is. Needing to shorten the amount of time for movies or theater pieces was not a thing back when people did not have entertainment outlets like, say, television. I will say though, I cannot help but feel that idea of a movie being too long is somewhat of a cop-out. If people are willing to sit through Avengers Endgame or literally any Michael Bay movie, maybe we can start performing the full length of a theater production again, but I digress. I, like many Americans, read Shakespeare in high school. In fact, because I grew up in Oregon and was a theater kid in high school, a school field trip I attended was going to the Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon. This festival is a big deal. It's town-wide and they do so many different productions of Shakespeare every year. If you can go, I highly recommend. I remember the production we were studying when I was a freshman was Hamlet. We went to see a production they were doing in Ashland, and I actually fell asleep during it because, LOL, I was a high schooler and didn't understand anything they were saying. On top of that, the production was odd. It was set in Denmark during the Middle Ages, so the 14th to 15th century, like it was supposed to be, and the actual set design reflected that. But the cast was wearing modern-day clothing. I would argue that was part of Verfremdungseffekt. At least I would hope it was intentional and not just whatever the hell they had laying around. But I argue it's part of Verfremdungseffekt because I still remember being confused by that to this day, and if I were to do a production of Hamlet, I would make sure not to do it that way. So, good job on the alienation effect, Ashland, Oregon, and whoever the hell directed that. I wasn't done with Hamlet there, though. We read it again in English during my sophomore year, and I remember getting into an argument with the teacher about Polonius. If you're familiar with Hamlet, you know Polonius gets stabbed for hiding in Gertrude's chamber because he was a two-timing sycophant. He profusely praised the king while thinking he was smarter than the king and would eventually outdo him or whatever. I said this, and the teacher dared to disagree with me. That Polonius didn't think he was smarter than he was, therefore he was just a yes man, not a sycophant. The definition of a sycophant according to Google is as follows. A sycophant is a self-seeking, servile flatterer who praises powerful or wealthy individuals to gain personal advantage. What do you think of that, high school teacher who I've honestly forgotten the name of? Talk about being made a fool of on YouTube 15 years later. You suck! And also, no, you were not cool for knowing how to say Shakespeare's name in sign language. You just looked like a dweeb making shaking gestures with your hands. Ha! Anyway, the common theme when it comes to Shakespeare, I would argue, is that nobody really understands what the hell he's saying. This has to do with both the fact that we don't speak that way anymore, and also it's hard to understand the historical context if you're not from wherever the play is set, and you don't have a basic understanding of world history. I understand Shakespeare now, but that moment came during the last year of my master's degree. I had just come home from teaching in Austria and picked up a lot of German, though not standard German, it was all Austrian German. If you know the difference. But learning another language gave me the key to understanding Shakespeare because it really is another language in and of itself. The moment I realized I could understand was when I was reading Julius Caesar for a theater class. I actually started crying because I never thought I would be able to understand it, but there it was in all its glory. Friends, if I can do it, so can you. It just takes patience and practice and dedication. You know, I think of that high school teacher as the one who sucks, but maybe I'm the one who sucks. Oh God. I had an inkling true understanding of Shakespeare was possible a few years prior. My mom took me and my sister to New York for my birthday to see a few Broadway productions. One of them was Something Rotten, and if you're not familiar with Something Rotten, It's a musical comedy with a book by John O'Farrell and Carrie Kirkpatrick, and music and lyrics by Carrie and Wayne Kirkpatrick. It's set in 1595, and the story follows the Bottom brothers, Nick and Nigel, who struggle to find success in the theatrical world as they compete with the wild popularity of their contemporary William Shakespeare. I remember Christian Boyle played William Shakespeare, and they have a song where he says, "It's hard being the bard," and my mom had that picture on her wall in her office. It's freaking awesome. The show is hilarious, and I followed it on social media. In 2016, the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death was globally commemorated on April 23rd. Lots of people did lots of different productions. Something Rotten was doing a ticket giveaway, and I actually won 2 tickets to see the Royal Shakespeare Company and the BBC production of Shakespeare Live! Which was filmed at Stratford-upon-Avon. The tickets I won, though, were from my local movie theater. I didn't actually fly to London. RIP. I went with my sister and we had a good old time. The performances were okay, honestly. Some of them my sister and I did enjoy, some of them really made us laugh, and some of them were just bad. Guess that's what you get at a variety show, though. Am I right? There is one actor that has stuck with me to this day, however. His name is Alex Hassel. Wow, what a handsome man. Oh my god, you guys, a bird just hit my window and it scared the bejesus out of me. Also, I have no idea why my voice just cracked when I said he handsome man. 10 years later, and Alex Hassel is still making me feel flustered. I'm pathetic. He was in a scene from Henry V with Jennifer Kirby and Lee Quinn. This was the first time in my life I saw an actor who understood the words he was saying and was authentic in the way he portrayed them. And I subsequently understood everything he was saying. A miracle, truly. I realized then that the problem with Shakespeare was not that it was impossible and too outdated, it was that his work is largely misunderstood. People treat it like the words are so historical they can't apply to modern day. Most stage actors only put emotion behind the words they speak. There isn't much understanding of the words they're saying. Ironically, film actors have the opposite problem. It's more about the look of the film rather than the characters in the story. So they consequently have too little emotion on film. In Shakespeare Live, they did a skit I will link down in the bio about Hamlet's most famous monologue. Can you guess? To be or not to be? That is the question. Every English speaker ever knows this line. The scene they did in Shakespeare Live made fun of the fact that the question is not actually to be or not to be, it's of where to put the emphasis in the first line. It's really funny and I recommend watching it. However, when Papa Aissadu actually began the monologue, I saw the same problem. Emotion behind the words and a lack of understanding as to what he was saying. That monologue is fundamentally about Hamlet wondering if it would be better just to end it all or not. The conclusion he reaches is that he and every other human is too afraid of the unknown of death to go through with ending one's own life before it's time. Most actors speak the lines as if they're reading a poem rather than speaking an actual train of thought. I will break down this monologue in a later video actually focused on Hamlet, so wait for that, friends. But the point remains, I have yet to see an actor read that monologue like an actual relatable train of thought that you would have nowadays, rather than pretty words they don't understand. The Romeo and Juliet balcony scene was also performed in Shakespeare Live, of course. But the actress playing Juliet was just so happy to be performing this iconic scene, she cried the entire time. Which made no damn sense for the scene at all. I'm happy she was happy, but also, girl, what? It's an interesting conundrum with Shakespeare stage performances I've noticed. More often than not, there isn't much time invested in the set or the costumes because they want the focus to be on the language and they leave that to the actors. Which, in theory, I agree with. But also, I think adding anything you can to help the audience when covering something difficult to understand from the get-go is important. Especially because most actors don't understand either. I don't know. An observation of mine and a problem for a different day. So that brings us to my reading the balcony scene from Romeo and Juliet. I chose this scene because I know you're familiar with it, and that already helps us on the road to understanding. I understand the lines and want to show you it is possible to understand the intention if the person reading and acting them does. No crazy voices, no crazy filters, just you and me and the words. Let's see if we can do it. Maybe I should have considered a costume and a set for this. To set the scene for you, Romeo has just met Juliet at a party he and his pals Benvolio and Mercutio are crashing. He kissed her several times, found out she is from the Capulet family and is her sworn enemy. He doesn't care though. He hops the wall so he can wait outside her balcony window like any good old man does. Benvolio and Mercutio try to coax him out by teasing him about his sudden obsession with a new girl that isn't Rosaline. It doesn't work and they leave. They just can't be bothered with Romeo's nonsense anymore. The first line Romeo utters is in response to his pal's teasing. Ha! He jests at scars that never felt a wound. But soft! What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun! Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious? Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off! It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand? Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. Ay me! She speaks! Oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious to this night, being over my head as a winged messenger of heaven unto the white, upturned, wondering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him, when he bestrides the lazy pacing clouds and sails upon the bosom of the air. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. Oh, shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this? 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. What's Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name! What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name which is no part of thee, take all myself! I take thee at thy word. Ah! Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth I never will be Romeo. What man art thou that thus bescreened at night so stumblest on my counsel? By a name I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself because it is an enemy to thee. Had I written it, I would tear the word. My ears have not yet drunk 100 words of that tongue's utterance, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo, and a Montague? Neither, fair saint, of either thee dislike. How camest thou hither? Tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here. With love's light wings did I o'erperch these walls. For stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do, that dares love attempt. Therefore, thy kinsmen are no let to me. If they do see thee, they will murder thee. Alack, there lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity. I would not for the world they saw thee here. I have night's cloak to hide me from their sight. And but thou love me, let them find me here. My life were better ended by their hate, than death prorogued, wanting of thy love. By whose direction foundest thou out this place? By love, who first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet wert thou as far as that vast shore washed with the farthest sea, I would adventure for such merchandise. Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word. Yet if thou swearest, thou mayst prove false. At lovers' perjuries, then say, Jove laughs. No, gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Or if thou thinkest I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay, so thou wilt woo, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayest think my behavior light. But trust me, gentlemen, I prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange. I should have been more strange, I must confess. But that thou overheardest ere I was ware, my true love's passion. Therefore pardon me, and not impute this yielding to light love which the dark night hath so discovered. Lady, by yonder blessed moon, I swear that tips with silver all these fruit treetops. Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable. What shall I swear by? Do not swear at all. Or if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the god of my idolatry. And I'll believe thee, if my heart's dear love. Well, do not swear. Although I joy in thee, I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning which doth cease to be ere one can say, it lightens. Sweet good night. This bud of love by summer's ripening breath may prove a beauteous flower when next we meet. Good night, good night, as sweet repose and rest come to thy heart as that within my breast. Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied? What satisfaction canst thou have tonight? The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine. I gave thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again. Wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love? But to be frank, and give it thee again. And yet I wish but for one thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea. My love is deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. Madam! I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Anon, good nurse! Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little. I will come again. Oh, blessed night! I am afeard. Being a night, all this is but a dream. Too flattering sweet to be substantial. 3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow, by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite. And all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. Madam! I come anon! But if thou mean'st not well, I do beseech thee. Madam! By and by I come, to cease thy suit and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow will I send. So thrive my soul. 1,000 times good night. 1,000 times the worse to want thy light. Love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books. but love from love towards school with heavy looks. Hist, Romeo, hist! Oh, for a falconer's voice to lure this tassel gentle back again. Bondage is hoarse and may not speak aloud, else I would tear the cave where echo lies, and make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine with repetition of my Romeo's name. It is my soul that calls upon my name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears. Romeo? My dear, at what o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee? At the hour of 9. I will not fail. 'Tis 20 years till then. I have forgot why I did call thee back. Let me stand here till thou remember it. I shall forget to have thee stand there, remembering how I love thy company. And I'll still stay to have thee still forget, forgetting any other home but this. 'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no further than a wanton's bird, who lets it hop a little from her hand like a poor prisoner in his twisted gyves, and with a silk thread plucks it back again, so loving jealous of his liberty. I would I were thy bird. Sweet, so would I. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night, good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow, that I shall say good night till it be morrow. Sleep dwell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly father sell, his help to crave and my dear hap to tell. How was that? The voice filters weren't fancy. I literally, for Juliet, tried to make it sound like she was maybe up on a balcony talking down to Romeo. I don't know if you caught that. And then I did some background ambience and some little twinkling stars. Yeah, let me know what you think. Was that understandable? Was it still too hard to get through? I want to know. Start a conversation down in the comments. And if there is anything I could have done better, please let me know. It's very hard listening to myself over and over again, so if I've got a third party who isn't as judgmental about my voice, that would be awesome. Or I guess if you want to be judgmental, you can be. I'm not here to limit free speech. I really do love that scene, though. It's really beautiful. And it was fun trying to read it and then realizing I read it not as clearly as I could have and then going back and redoing it. While it could... Thank you, Brutus. He's got a water bottle. While it could be seen as a bit of a tedious process, it really is helpful. Kind of like when I was cutting down that theater piece. Tedious, but it teaches you a lot. Anyway, I'm here to learn and to be taught. Although, next time I do something like this, I would definitely like to have a Romeo, or some other man to read the man parts, because I feel awkward, I won't lie. Just about as awkward as saying, read the man parts, because what is that sentence? I cried when I finished this illustration. When I tell you this is the best thing I've ever drawn, I mean it. I never thought I would be able to create something this beautiful. Thank you, Wearingeul, for creating such amazing inks to help foster my and others' creativity. I have a print club. If you subscribe to my Patreon for $10 a month, you will get a print of this very illustration, a sticker, and a handwritten letter with my sentiments about the illustration and text. You also get access to sketch updates, an exclusive live stream, a video where I talk about the sticker making process, and photos of my dogs. If you want 2 illustrations and 2 or more stickers, you can subscribe to my $15 tier. That tier has said previous benefits as well as a voting poll for sketch requests and voting for what you want the second print to be. And spoiler alert, it doesn't have to be related to the literature piece that's the month's theme. It can be one of my other art pieces. And we've come to the end, my friend. Thank you so much. If you liked this video, consider subscribing, leaving a comment, sharing it with your friends. As for the month of June's illustration, I'm not going to put a preview here, but there is a hint as to what it is somewhere in this video, and if you look back at the book titles, you might be able to figure it out. Anyway, I love you, thank you so much, and to quote Shakespeare, "Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow."